Okay, so the floor is yours, Maciej. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me this evening. I'm going to present you very shortly, very briefly, my project tcbm2sd. Maybe it's not the easiest name to say, but I'm not good at naming things. And what is it? It's a cartridge for C16, 116, and Plus4. It's also a 1551 pedal replacement and a 1551 disk drive simulator. And what are those things should be more clear at the end of this talk. But first, maybe a little about me. I have been involved with Commodore since 1992, but only Commodore 64 and 128. My main focus was on GEOS and things that were specific to Commodore 128, some hardware expansions. I had memory expansion in my Commodore and some little hardware projects. I paused my Commodore activity in 2001, but I came back in 2021 with a Bitcoin miner for Commodore 64, and there's my scene handle, YTM or Yataman of Elysium. In the following year, Krzysztof Dąbrowski, Brush of Elysium, has ported this game, Amauroth, from Atari to C64, and I continue his work and I ported this to Commodore 128, and using some tricks specific to Commodore 128, I made it faster, and also it works in both 40 and 80 columns. And there was also this. Back in 1999, I have disassembled GEOS, and then I wanted to check something on Atari, 8-bit Atari, and it ended up with me porting GEOS to small Atari. But it's not today's topic, because the topic today is that in June I became a Plus4 owner for the very first time. And that was a problem because I was a newbie. So how do I do anything with this computer? I got so much used to Action Replay and the servant on Commodore 128 that it was just not convenient for me to use, load and run commands. I had connected this to 1541 disk drive, but it was slow. I didn't have GFIDOS at that time. With SD2 IEC, it was faster, but still slow. Ultimate 2 Plus works with that, but it's not convenient to control when you don't have this integrated native menu. You have to do it over the Ethernet with Telnet. There is tape card that was almost what I needed, but it doesn't support disk images. So I wanted something that had speed, that was convenient, and what could be my options? First, I wanted to check out the native solutions. For those of you who don't know this range of computers, this is a 1551 drive that was designed specifically for these computers, 16, 116, and Plus4. It has this nice graphite finish to match. It has almost the same DOS as 1541, but it's 4 times faster than 1541. And this is because it uses parallel data transfer, and this kind of connection is named TCBM for reasons lost to time. And you can see on this photo that it's connected to a cartridge. And I thought maybe I can have one of those, but it would be faster, but still it wouldn't be convenient because it runs on floppies, and I wanted to have something with a USB or SD card. But let's take a closer look at the paddle. That's the cartridge. It's called a paddle. It may be confusing, but yeah, it's a cartridge. On the back, it has a pass-through port for another cartridge or another paddle if you want to have two 1551 disk drives. I couldn't find the photo, but I think that 2 of them connected back to back to Plus4 would look just funny. There is a cable connector for this parallel cable. So this is something like a burst or parallel connection from 1541 to user port on a Commodore 64. The difference is that user port in Commodore 64 is handled by the I/O chip that is inside the computer, but this one is handled by a 3-port interface, a chip that is on the cartridge itself. It has 3 ports, but 2 of them are just 2 bits wide. Another example of a cost cutting from Commodore. And the last element on this cartridge is a PLA, which decodes address and CPU bus. So this is all explained very nice and very extensively in Michael Steele's article at that page. I highly recommend it. So I did a internet research, and it turns out that there is nothing like a hardware 1551 emulator, something that would resemble Pi 1541 or U2+. There is no SDIAC that would use this kind of parallel connection. In fact, I couldn't even find attempts or talk about it. There is no other device that would understand this protocol, but PLA has been replicated, and a bigger brother of this 3-port chip, the one that has 3 8-bit ports, has been replicated as well. So I had an idea that maybe I try to do something like that. So I wanted to start with something simple and replicate just the paddle part, this cartridge. And then I would want to connect it to something that would talk with this TCBM protocol. And this something would simulate, not emulate, because it's difficult, but simulation is easy. The 1551 or TCBM device, it would just respond in a way that the 1551 would do. And maybe at some time in the future, that could be integrated with SD2 IEC. And after a month or so, I had this. This is the first revision of the cartridge. And it has it's based on modules, because I wanted to make it easy to solder, to build by yourself. It has Arduino Mini Pro. This microcontroller has 2K of RAM and 28K of flash. There is a complex programmable logic device in here. That's the only part that is difficult to solder. It handles the port emulation and the PLA decoding. And there is a power module, because we need to go to the 3.3 volt world. And there is the SD card socket also as a module. And there is a place for edge expansion edge connector. But at that time, I had no idea that these are impossible to buy and impossible to find. It seems the only source is to harvest it from a main board of a C16, but I just don't have heart to do it. And this is how it looks like in a cartridge shell. So it looks stylish, although should be graphite. I started to use it daily, so I knew that it was convenient and fast. At that point, I knew that I don't want to port it back to SD2 IEC anymore, that it's just fine as it is. It has some firmware problems. It didn't work with CPU replacement parts that some of these computers have, like original CPU was broken and it was replaced by a 6502 or 6510. And it also had issues with GFIDOS. And I recognized that there were missing features. So that's the next revision. And the missing feature were the 2 buttons to switch to the next and previous disk image. The connector for the cable is also available here. So a real 5051 drive can be connected to that. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, I got a confirmation from someone that indeed it works with a real 1551 drive, because I don't own one. And there is another part that I missed, and that is a socket for a ROM chip. There are some components under this footprint, and I realized that maybe I don't need those components because I have a programmable logic chip next to it. So after a small patch, this is where we are today. That's the 3rd revision that supports directory deload dsave commands from kernel without any special software. It just uses the protocol that the Plus4 expects. It supports a subset of these commands like scratch, rename, change directory, make directory. It supports disk images, the big three ones, 64, 71, 81, but also lesser known 82 and D80. They are quite similar to the 81, but bigger. It can work as a device 8 or 9, changed programmatically or via jumpers. It's fast, in fact, twice as fast than 1551 using kernel routines, or 6 times as fast as 5051 using fast loader. In fact, that is like 23 times the speed of 1541, so comparable to Dolphin DOS or Speed DOS that also use parallel cable. And it also works as a cartridge, so it has 1 or 2 30K banks. Let's try to do a little demo. Right now, I need to switch my capture device. Oh, there we have it. So that's the startup screen of the Plus4. And you can already see that we have 2 cartridges, 1 and 2, that occupy the function keys. One of them is basic 70, which implements some commands from the basic 70 of Commodore 128. And the other one is Calc Plus, just a spreadsheet from Commodore. I put it here because I had no better idea how to use it. Yeah, let's switch focus to the disk drive. This Plus4 is not connected to anything. It only has this cartridge. And we can check the disk status. After a reset, it reports like this with a firmware version 0002, the 2 numbers at the end. Standard directory listing works. We have some directories here and also this boot file. This boot file will be loaded whenever one tries to load the star file, and it will work from as long as you are not inside the disk image. So in this case, it can be any file. It can be like a startup file for a game that would be distributed on an SD card. But here it's just a directory browser. This is directory browser version 1.2, and it has been patched to use the fast loader features from tcbm2sd. And if I go into a folder that has lots of files, then you can see that it loads quite fast, and we can start one of those. Now it's loading, and now we have it, and it started up. And yeah, right now I'm in this games B folder, but if I deload star file, and in fact there is a shortcut for this on a Plus4, Shift and Run Stop. Then I have a browser again, and I can go up, and I can show you how the disk images work. Here are games that I have patched to use the fast loader or just loader from tcbm2sd. There is a Pets Rescue, Turbo Outrun, Prince of Persia, Alpha Ray, Lemmings, Bard's Tale, which is a multi-disc game, and Lycia. As you can see, these are D81, D64 disk images, and they just appear as directories. So I can start up Lemmings. Now it's loading, and after a few seconds of decompressing, we will have the game. The game starts, loads the level, and yeah, there it is, Lemmings on a Plus4. So right now I'm in the disk image. I can go up by just issuing a command. and I am back on the level of FAT file system. So if I go up, and here I can show you there is a GEOS that I have patched to use the special loader for TCBM. I said that this save doesn't work on the disk images. It works only when you are saving to the FAT file system. But GEOS has this loader, and I put the feature into the firmware so that single disk blocks can be saved within a disk image. And this was enough to make GEOS support. So I can start GEOS. Now it has loaded. Now it's loading desktop. And here we are. I don't have a joystick or mouse connected here. I will be using keyboard shortcuts. Now I'm reaching to the buttons on the cartridge, and I will switch the disk image, and I will open the disk. And yeah, now we are in a completely different place. Let's try to open one of those documents. Now GeoWrite is loading. And there is GeoWrite. Now it's loading the document and the font. And yeah, there it is. So I will switch back to the presentation. So what comes next? I'm quite happy with this hardware and the firmware already. I will continue software patching because it's highly rewarding and fun when you figure out something. Maybe Pi 1551 would be possible. It would be based on Pi 1541 because those drives are so similar. It would be a cycle exact emulator that would be capable of running the drive code. So that would be full 100% compatibility. The hardware would be much simpler than Pi 1541 because this is already working on the 3.3 volt logic. So all you need is just to have some wires connected to Raspberry Pi GPIO, but it doesn't work as a Linux application. It works as an ARM program. So any help with the ARM bare metal programming would be needed. Where to get it? Everything is open source. You can find all the firmware, software, hardware designs, patched games, and the source code for patches as well on the project's GitHub page. I'm going to publish this also on the PCBWay, so anyone can order this as a manufactured device. But I have some of this with me, so if you want to purchase that, you can contact me, and I might have one at that point. I wanted to say at the end that this wouldn't be possible, certainly not within this time span between June and October, without all the people who made a choice and made an effort, because I know it is an effort, to open source the hardware and software projects, to document them and publish. And there are benefits to that because there is already a project that is based on my work already, and that's fake 6523 that replicates this small 28-pin port chip inside the paddle. So now anyone who has a broken paddle can find a replacement port chip to that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you today. So thank you for your time and attention.
Well, many thanks to you, Maciej. I guess it's time to open for questions. We have quite a few people in the attendance room. Maybe while people are still thinking about the question, I'm checking on Facebook if there are any questions posted there. I don't see any, but I had one. I see. So on the first of all, so you're using this Arduino, the small Arduino there. Did you change anything between the 1.1 and the 1.3 version, or is it exactly the same card that you're using there?
It's using the same firmware, and 1.1 and 1.2 are almost identical. They differ only in the fact that there is a slot, a socket for ROM, and those two buttons. But yeah, rest of the design is pretty much the same.
Okay.
And yeah, Arduino is the limiting factor here. I took something that I knew. I needed something that works on the 3.3 volt logic, but it's a limiting factor because it has not enough RAM to do anything else except this basic compatibility layer.
Yeah. So there as well on the memory management. So you mentioned so the RAM, the 2K RAM, 28K flash, but then you have also this. You have the SD card reader that could be used as a kind of swap space for memory. Is this something that you intended to use, or that you could use for some?
No. SD card is only for the storage for Commodore.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any question from the attendees? And I still have one. I think the community of C++, Commodore Plus4 users is quite. It exists, of course, but it's much less, or it's big. It's smaller than the Commodore 64 or 128 community. Do you have many users providing feedback? How?
Yes, I announced this on the Plus4 World Forum, and it seems that every Plus4 owner is there. And I wanted to say hi to you guys because it's a very nice community, very welcoming.
Yeah, actually, it's true that the Plus4 community, it's indeed smaller, but on the other hand, you have probably more technical guys than on C64 128. You have a lot of people who are just, let's say, collectors and gamers. Of course, we have also a lot of technical guys, but I think nowadays the people who are using the C4, they are much more tech oriented, or let's say only more than if you look proportionally, maybe then.
And perhaps mostly in Hungary, as far as I remember, it was quite popular in Hungary.
Okay, that I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, that was exactly the same situation as with the small Atari that was popular in Poland. So Plus4 was popular in Hungary. I'm quite amazed with the amount of games that has been ported to that machine. I wasn't actually aware of that.
I am amazed that they were ported without using sprites.
Yeah,
that's the challenge.
That's what I know. This I know because about the game that I will be talking. I know there was also port for Atari, and the guy who did it was there was no sprites in use, and it was like a hard challenge.
Okay, I don't want to diss Atari right now, but after porting Geos, I knew that sprites on Atari are a bit useless. So
yeah, sort of. Yeah, you have a faster CPU, so you can really try to attempt to do some software sprites in a bitmap mode, but nonetheless, all the charm of the faster CPU is gone then. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see any more questions here, but if you have any questions, just maybe type them into the chat box. I will. So thank you again, Maciej. I will stop the recording.
Thank you.